Inside Saluki Athletics, presented by Pagliai of Carbondale, the official coaches show of Saluki Athletics. Now, here is the voice of the Salukis, Luke Martin.
We welcome everybody back to Inside Saluki Athletics, presented by our friends at Pagliai of Carbondale. I'm Luke Martin, voice of the Salukis, joined by the head coach of Saluki men's basketball, none other than Scott Nagy, following what was a very important win on Saturday in Banterra Center. Coach, appreciate the time, but you really don't get a whole lot of time to enjoy those, right? You take a little moment after the game, but it's always moving forward, and especially when you have all these games coming up here in a short amount of time, and the season's starting to wind down here in February.
Yeah, it's it's pretty much set up that we play, we have 2 days to prepare, we play, and then you got to have a day off. So we took a day off Sunday, and it feels like a week's vacation when you take a day off and just get away from it a little bit. But it's really ends up not being great for the players to take a day off, because anytime they come back from a day off, they're sluggish.
What are the ways that in that, Coach, that probably there's going to be a little bit of sluggishness? Just what do you do as the leader to fight through that? And when that does happen, how you address it at practice and try to nip it as much as you can? Well,
it requires patience, which I'm not great at. I mean, I already know going into it that usually we take a day off, we'll be sluggish. If we take 2 days off, it can be a disaster. It would be a little bit like a marathon runner where, you just need to train every day, train every day, train every day. And I'm sure they take some days off too. Physically you need it, even mentally you need it. But it's like your brain and your body forget, even after a day, what it's like to come back here and prepare. And, to win on Wednesday, you got to prepare hard on Monday. And our practice was not great today, which, again, taking the day off is a little bit expected. But we have things moving in the right direction, and we don't want to take a step backwards.
That's an area, Coach, that maybe this isn't the best way to phrase it, because I don't know how much of a daily reminder you need to give to your group, but how much do you have a conversation with them of how much work they put in to get back to this point, to put themselves in a position to have really meaningful games here in the month of February, and say, hey, this is what you did so well to get back to this point. Remember that, focus in on that, and continue to build on it.
The more you win, I think, the less you have to point out what they're doing right. When you're not winning, you have to point out the things they're doing right. The more you win, I think you can really hone in on the things you need to get better at. We had several mistakes in the UIC game, and when you win, you can get caught in. Just because we got the result we wanted means we did everything right. And no, it doesn't mean that. We had 16 turnovers. If we think that won't come back to bite us at some point, we're crazy. We have to clean those things up. Our defense, even though it was good, was really sloppy about the last 8.5 minutes. So was our offense. Human nature. You're up big. You feel like the game's over. You don't stay honed in. And it's like anything else. Once you let off the gas, it's hard to put it back on. And I don't think that is necessarily just in the game. It can go from game to game. So we don't want to let off the gas ever. And so we're just trying to teach our guys that when you have a team put away, then beat them worse. Just stay at it. Be who we are. Don't get funky and start doing weird stuff and celebrating with the crowd. We can celebrate after the game. Let's be who we are in these moments.
Look, an area that I was really glad you brought up with me and Chris Carr after the game was the net portion of it. And for our fans that maybe don't necessarily understand the intricacies and the details of the net, but the difference of your margin of victory can move your spot in the net by 5 to 10 spots. And when you look at conference standings, you look at log jams, you look at tiebreakers, the net can be a part of that, Coach. And those 5 to 10 spots can really make the world of difference. And that's all you were just trying to remind your guys of why it's important. It's important not to take your foot off the gas regardless, but even more so in this day and age with the metrics and how they work and how they could determine your conference seeding.
Yeah, and late when you're up big, some guys who haven't gotten to play get a chance to, and I get it. Sometimes that's hard for them. It can become, you feel like it's just mop-up time and I'm not important to the team, and it's this how they should be looking at it. This is an opportunity for me to play and show the coaches that I can be serious in what I'll do, and that I'm about the team. I'm not about myself. And I'm not saying that's an easy thing to do. It's a hard thing to do. But you have two options when you're not playing. When you get your opportunities, you can be ready and be locked in, or you can feel sorry for yourself. And I don't know, in all my years of coaching kids and even knowing myself, that any time feeling sorry for yourself has ever worked out well for you.
Coach, one of the areas that no doubt has improved, I know you brought up the turnovers. That's an area that you want to be an improvement as you move on here throughout the month of February. But, of course, the three-point shot has been falling at a much higher clip, especially the last two games. Outside of just, hey, the shots are now falling, what have you seen as a commonality, as a common thread offensively, of whether it's getting ball reversals, whether it's sharing the basketball at a higher clip? What have you seen offensively that's allowed your guys to really get more quality looks to behind the arc?
Well, against Evansville, you knew you were going to get them. They weren't even guarding us half the time. When we played at home, we had all kinds of shots, and people were upset that they can't make threes, and they keep shooting them. And they're the only ones you can get because they're standing five guys in the paint. You have to have people at some point that can jump up and make a wide-open shot. It's a horse shot. And we did that against Evansville, making 15 of them. And like you say, it continued. I think the confidence carried over. Plus, I think the guys are getting extra shooting in. They're coming in at night. They're taking it more seriously in terms of, they feel that we're back in this thing and the pressure of each game, and they don't want to let their teammates down. And so they're getting extra time in to get that done. And we're trying to move the ball a little better. It's still not moving at the clip I would like it to. Guys still hang on to it and dribble it too much. But, our offense – generally, it has been in some games, but most games it's not the problem. If we don't win, it usually is our defense and our rebounding.
One of the areas, and I want to build on that, is rebounding. And you look at your defensive rebounding percentage, Coach Nagy, not that it was ever really at a bad spot this year, but that has been a number that has improved as you've gone throughout. Do you feel that? Do you sense that? Do you believe that those numbers are showing that your group is getting better, whether technique-wise in terms of defensive rebounding, effort? Like, what do you contribute that to?
Yeah, I've never been much for the technique and blocking out, but having Coach Hawkins around, he spent some time with the players on it. We've implemented it in just about every practice now. I write it on the board 3 times in terms of what we're looking for is a front pivot and go get them, not wait for them to get to you and reverse pivot. So, I've never talked that way before. I'm just the type like go get the ball or we'll play somebody else. But there is some technique to it, and I think that's helped us as we just try to do it every day, even if it's a little bit where they create a good habit.
What's allowed your guards to rebound so well?
Well, they're on the floor, and there's going to be shots missed, and we pretty much have one big guy out there most of the time. We have 4 guards, and usually the big guy is definitely blocking out. A lot of times the guards may not be, and so they're free to run and chase balls down. We need all of our guards to rebound the ball at a high clip.
Look, this has been a team where you have even said from the summer, Coach Nagy, that you probably would have to do some things unconventionally, and you've had some guys playing out of position, whether it's Kennard kind of being a primary ball handler. You've tried Drew Steffi there at times. Just there's a lot of different guys where you can point to, but they're probably playing a role for this team that they normally wouldn't fill. But what have you really been impressed by with your group of guys who have taken on those roles, really improved in those roles, and has given your team a really good shot here down the stretch to have a really strong finish to the season?
I think as a coaching staff, we've done a good job of just working through it and see what works, and we found a good combination. It wasn't up until probably the second half of the Belmont game that we started playing small, and we saw that was beneficial for us offensively. So then the question is, can we guard that way? Can we rebound that way? We know offensively it's better for us, and we've been able to do that. I think guys are happy. Initially, so many guys are trying to figure out their role in a team of a bunch of brand new guys, a brand new coach, just all of it. And so we've really been able to hone in on what their roles are. Because, I'm a role player, and that has a negative connotation. Everybody's a role player. You're all role players. We all have a role. I'm a role player. So, guys have figured out better what their roles are and what we need them to do. And and they've accepted them. I think it's a big it's kind of a talent to recognize and admit who you are and be okay with it, and not try to do things that you can't do. And so, I think a lot of credit goes to the players for figuring out who they are and then, being that person and not trying to do things that you're not capable of doing.
Coach, the common connections that we share, whether coaches you've been with or others, I know players that you've obviously coached, and even our guys here, the things that they can really relate with you well is how you are a man of faith. And you have always talked about that at length in so many different interviews that you've done too, and have shared that with Saluki Nation. I'm just more wondering, just with this year, I know this year at time has been a challenge for you, and you have said, man, it's been a challenge for me to coach in a different way or give up some things I'm not used to giving up. Has there been any sort of scripture or things that you've really attached to throughout this year that has helped you in that area and has really pushed you to really just have that type of mindset to come into work each day and really help your staff and help this program in the best way?
I just work through, books of the Bible and read commentaries on them and try to understand them better. There's not really been one certain verse. I've just been mostly been, what's bothering me here lately is just the words that I use, whether they, because words can either give life or they can take life. They either kill you or fill you up. And my personality is that I would use words that would take life. Very critical, and I can be hard and harsh in what I say. I grew up as a younger man just with a filthy mouth, and and a lot of times that'll come back. Just the old Scott Nagy comes back when I get mad and say things that I have to ask for forgiveness for. And so that's really been my focus this year, are just the certain words that come out of my mouth, and then how am I delivering that message? Am I being constructive in the criticism, or am I being destructive? Because I can very easily go destructive.
How do you look at yourself in a critical way, but not being overcritical, Coach? Because whatever our professions are, how we are as people, I think we all look at ourselves with a more critical eye. How do you kind of judge yourself on that to make sure that you're doing it fairly and not being overly critical too? Because that's very easy, I think, for all of us in life.
Well, I mean, you say that. Some people are not critical of themselves at all. I would tend to be the other way, very overcritical, probably just because of the way that I grew up. But yeah, I tend to always feel like I'm failing and letting people down and saying things that, so a lot of just asking God to forgive me, and I can always see the areas where I failed. I don't always see the areas where I'm doing well. It's much easier for me to focus on the negative. And that's with everything. If it's me or the players or whatever. I'm not a very affirming guy. I don't. And it's one of the reasons why I surround myself with positive people, because I can balance that out with 5 guys with my negativity sometimes. And so, I just don't have a lot of words of affirmation, and I need to have more of those because they need to hear it from me.
Look, and the fan base and everybody, no doubt, is saying a lot of credit your way in what you've done to really help this group turn the ship. But to your point and what you just said, how much do you really want to be proud of your staff? And,
I say this, Luke, and it's the truth. Yeah. When we started flipping this thing is when I fired myself. I was the common denominator last year with a team that wasn't very good defensively. I was the common denominator, and so, I fired myself, and I'm coaching less. I will say this, it probably has helped me because now defensively, Coach Hawk is the guy that's, grumbling under his breath and mad at everybody, and it allows me to be a little more affirming, because I don't feel I'm not as responsible for that part of it. I don't feel as responsible. And so when a kid makes a mistake, I can see through it easier because I don't feel like he's necessarily damaging something that I'm responsible for. And so it's probably helped me in that regard in my relationship with the players. It's put more pressure on Coach Hawkins. And it's funny, you can just see in the way we coach how that changed. But, the best thing I did was fire myself.
look, there has been a huge change within your team from the Belmont game on the road to now. But then you factor in the last time you saw Bradley. I mean, that seems like 10 years ago. Coach Nagy, with the course of how this year has gone on, I don't mean to be like a smart rear end when I say this question, but like, yes, you have to watch what you did. You got to go back and watch the first game to see where you need to improve. But how much can you even dwell on that film, because your team is just completely different, and Bradley too. I mean, that is just such a long time ago. How do you balance of wanting to watch so much of the first game and say, "God, do this better the next time around," but also knowing just it's a completely different climate when this game is taking place?
I would guess both teams aren't going to spend a lot of time because it was so long ago. They're a different team. We're a different team, and so and it is hard for me to watch it without just getting angry and but mostly at myself. Like, what in the world was I doing at that moment? And so, and if their players are, just looking at that last game, they won't have a hard time convincing their players these guys are playing better. I mean, all you got to do is look at, the last few games, and so, we hope it'll be a different game, but we're going on the road, but we've been a good road team, which I've been pleased with. But a lot of people in this league have been good road teams. Bradley's been a great road team. So
now being able to turn it, as you said, being able to handle success, Coach Nagy, is one of the areas that you've always hinted at in so many conversations we have can be the hardest thing to do. What will be just the biggest things you preach to your guys here over these couple days before you get to Bradley on Wednesday night of, this is what we need to do, fellas, to keep stacking up and earn what would be a really, really good road win?
Well, and I told him this day, let us coach you. We got a little bit of you can sense when you get after a guy if he's listening and going, yeah, you're right, or if he's like, man, I wish he'd just get off my case, because there's a difference in how you take that. And it's like, dang, coach, we're playing pretty good. Why are you on us so hard? Well, I mean, because you're getting your kudos, you're getting your pats on the back, and everybody else around you telling you how great it is. So this is where, as a coaching staff, we have to zero in and go, no, this has got to be better. We need you to listen to us. We need you to pay attention. It just is. It's very easy to get satisfied, and we already saw that with the Drake game. You just if you don't come in every day with humility, going, I need to get better. I'm thankful things are going well, but I know we can get better. You'll allow us to coach it. But if you're coming in going, I'm feeling pretty good and I'm playing well and I know what I'm doing, and they should be telling me I'm doing a good job, you become entitled, and it's a bad spot to be in. The entitlement area is just a bad area to think that you deserve things instead of wanting to be pushed, and and there's a balance to it. I don't think you just beat your kids up all the time, beat them up all the time. But I think you can be harder on them when you're winning than you can when you're losing.
Well, the other thing that's really a good spot to be in, Coach Nagy, is when the fan base and yours truly and everyone is just, you're counting down the seconds till the next game because of how you guys have played and how it's really rejuvenated everybody in the town and all throughout Saluki Nation. That's got to be a really good feeling as well.
Yeah, if that's what's happening, I'm glad. Yeah. I wouldn't know that because I don't do social media and all that other stuff, so I don't pay much attention to it. We want that. We want our fans to feel good about that and be excited about what we're doing. And I'm always amazed at how sports, and I'm no different. I love the Dallas Cowboys, and when they play well, I feel better about myself. I mean, it's a little bit ridiculous, really, when you think about why are sports that way, that if your team's doing well, it makes you happy when you have nothing really to do with it. But you are invested emotionally. You just are, and it makes sense. But I have to. It doesn't help me when people are saying good things about me, and it can hurt me when people are being negative about me. And so I just have to wipe all of it out and really, really narrow in the information I take in.
I'll handle the social media
side
for you,
fine.
Coach. Which my last question, I was going to try to surprise you with it, but you kind of led right into it. When are the Cowboys going to finally get into the Super Bowl, Coach Nagy? I know, how does that sit with you that I believe now they have the longest drought right now in terms of the NFC title game in the NFC?
Yeah, I I have a lot of opinions about it, but I'm a coach, and so I try not to complain about anybody's coaching because I know I'm not in those rooms, and there's things that can annoy me, but I try never to complain about the coaching, and no matter what team it is, and so even when it was my own children's team, I never got involved in that. I just that's not who I'm going to be, but they we'll just leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that.
They frustrate me.
No doubt. Coach, appreciate the time. Looking forward to Wednesday at Bradley.
All right, thanks.
When we come back on the Inside Saluki Athletics, catch up with Saluki, big man, freshman, Rollins of League Bet. Jerry Hensley out on the perimeter as the lefty Jerry Hensley tells Kennard to clear it out. Hensley will lower his shoulder in on Freeman. He's on the right side of the hashes, into the middle of the lane, at the Valley, takes the maroon, up with his right hand, and that's swirled in there. Jerry Hensley with his first two. It's 2-1, Southern Illinois.
There we go. We got to keep going to that. I like his aggressiveness to start this game.
His left, Mason, left elbow, runner, right-handed, won't go. Rollins of League Bay, the freshman gets the rebound, and Rollins pushes it ahead to Ali Diba. Diba sideline right, two-handed chest pass far corner. Mayo spinning, baseline, low right block, spins again, and then goes up. And Damian Mayo with a phenomenal move there, Chris Carr.
That was a great move, and they attack the paint. That's what we got to do. We got to stay mindful of that.
Mason to his left of the hashes, pocket pass to Conslares. He goes baseline left, Mason up, shot blocked by Ali Bay. The freshman hugs onto that basketball, and here comes SIU. 50 to go here in the first half. Davion Sykes, he deflected it, goes back to Freeman. It's down over her back because it was deflected. Freeman, pull up three in the face of Diva. It's long, rebound loose, still on the floor, and it's going to be Javon Jackson for UIC. Pitch it up ahead with two hands. Conslares is blocked again. That's a League Bay second block so far. 14:30 to go in the opening half. Weaves with Kennard Davis. Now Sykes on the perimeter. He catches, he'll go, comes to a jump stop, sets his feet, and then goes up, plays off 2 feet, played it in for 2.
In the paint, once again, we got a good action there, got a good driving opportunity. We got to, once again, let's see what our defense can do here after a Mayfield goal.
7 minutes gone by here in the opening half. SIU trails by 1. Javon Jackson slowing it down in his neon green Adidas sneakers. To his right, back turned on Diba. Now tries to step his way back, goes to his left, Jordan Mason. Good Slares inside the post, goes low left block, whipped it near side, his pass deflected off the rim, and now here comes Davion Sykes. Sykes top of the key, near wing Mayo, shot fakes right back to Sykes, low left block in the paint, whipped it middle of the floor, finds Damian Mayo, he's fouled, got the bucket and the foul. Touching paint, making good things happen.
There we go,
Chris
definitely
Carr.
so. That's what we like to see. Damian Mayo is so tough on his cuts getting to the basket, and he finishes through contact, so got to continue to chase those. Again, I'll go back to our field goal defensive percentage. After a made field goal, we're doing a great job on the defensive side of things. So got to continue to do that.
Bounce pass all the way up. Henderson shot blocked by Davis, and it was deflected out by SIU. And it's going to be UIC basketball when we come back. 9-7 lead, but you can hear Saluki Nation applying the defensive effort so far. Southern sideline left. Kennard Davis left wing, now far corner. Sykes finds Jared Hensley, leaping for the ball in the low left block. Pickett is guarding him. He arm bars him in his back. One hands it out. Sykes, he'll fire a three, and he goes! Man, Davion Sykes. I don't know if you would have picked him to be the first Saluki to make the first three, but Southern back extends its lead 12-7.
Hey, he was open.
He was. Sykes two-handed pass over to Diba. Now Kennard Davis, 3 with 16 on the shot clock. A dead-eye bullseye for Kennard Davis. He's got 6. Goes over to Scoball. Now Freeman on the near wing. 18 on the shot clock. Southern leading by 4. UIC with the ball, and Diba knocked it loose. Damian Mayo picks it up. Kennard Davis running by everybody. Low right block all the way to the rack. Left it off the front of the rim. It's volleyball out to Steffi. His 3 on the way. Yes, sir! Drew Steffi. Nothing but net on his 3. And Southern back in front, tying its largest lead, 7. Kennard Davis in the high post, looking for Jared Hensley on a pocket pass. He flashes out in the wing, goes baseline right, Drew Steffi. Jared Hensley catch and shoot 3, right wing, that one rims in. Now the 3s are falling for Southern, and it's a 10-point lead for SIU. Steffi comes down left to right on the near wing. Jared Hensley, a high ball screen for Steffi. Steffi all the way to the rack, and he laid it in. Confetti pops it to the north end of Banterra. That about Drew Steffi there on that drive, Chris Carr.
That was a great play. Good patience with him. I'd like to see him get going here in the second half. All right, little press here. Let's see how Southern handles it.
Pickett picks up Kennard Davis. He was trapped at the near midcourt stripe. Now Drew Steffi to a cutting Diva. Low left block, spinning, back out Mayo left wing.
Kennard straight away with 19. Steffi catch and shoot three near wing. Nothing but net. Oh my, what a beautiful shot by Drew Steffi. He's got 8 in the game, 5 in the second half. 18 here in the second half. Mason to his right, hard hedge. He went to the backcourt. It was not tipped. Now Drew Steffi steals it away. Steffi left wing, lobbed up to Hensley. Two-handed slam, but he waited there. Timeout on the floor by UIC. 47-31 as Southern Illinois. You can hear them all around Little Egypt applauding this effort today by the Dogs. They lead it by 16 with 13:47 to go. We'll take the timeout with them. This is Saluki Basketball from Lear Field. Kennard Davis, chest pass Mayo. He was had open three. Finds Jarrett Hensley, extra pass Steffi. He fires from the near wing. Oh, Drew Steffi. He's starting to feel it here in the second half. Drew Steffi's got 8 in the second half. He's got 11 in the game. Now Marino catches it. Skips it. Drew Steffi, near wing, three from the B and Banterra, and B for bullseye. Drew Steffi, he's got 12 in the second half, 58-40 Southern lead. Kennard Davis trapped in. They come out. Diva jumps the passing lane. Diva's got it. Diva all the way over Jackson. One-handed slam. What a way to get it to the scoring column for Ali Diva.
We get it back. We get it back.
Get it back.
Yes, sir.
They turned it over.
Turn it over.
They threw it out of bounds, and now it's Southern ball. And the Southern crowd comes to its feet, and a timeout by UIC. 9:43 on the clock. It's a 30-second timeout. And SIU will keep it here. UIC is still pressuring with 10 seconds left. Diva gets it past. Rob Eson says, do not foul, as Southern Illinois. They will sweep the UIC Flames in a dominating defensive effort this afternoon in Banterra. SIU, after falling 0-5 in the league, they have fought back to get the 500. Southern Illinois now 7-7 in the Missouri Valley Conference. They are 12-13 on the season. They improved to 7-0 all-time against UIC in Banterra as they win it 79-67 over the UIC Flames. What a performance today, Chris Carr, for the Dogs.
Yes, sir. Great job. They did a phenomenal job today, man. I'm proud of them for how they competed.
Welcome back, everybody, to Inside Saluki Athletics, presented by Pagliai of Carbondale. We are now joined by our Saluki student athlete on the men's basketball side this week, Rollins Alik Bay, who's coming off a great performance against UIC. 2 big blocks in the game, and, of course, helping out the Salukis any way you can. Rollins, welcome, man. It's good to see you, brother.
Thank you for having me.
It's always great to have you, and more importantly, what has this last month been like for you guys after a lot of adversity you've had to fight through, especially you in your freshman season? Just what's the joy been like to get this thing back to 500?
I feel like the joys came in throughout the team. Like, we've done more together and trying to, like, become more as one. And then, like, we started our winning streak against Missouri State. So everything started switching those games. So, like, I feel like since then it's just been going uphill, and then we just don't want to fall back into what we started off with. So we're just all trending in the right way and just being more aggressive and knowing that we actually have a chance in this league for sure. So I think that's what's making us, like, the motivation to keep us going.
Look, the Belmont game in the second half, you could tell that it did switch.
Mm-hmm.
But the Missouri State home game could have very easily been a loss, Rollins, because it come back, they sneak it into overtime, yet this team found a way to win it.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you think back to that time of how big that was for you guys to not just face adversity in a game that you won, but to figure out a way in overtime to pull that game out?
I feel like that it shows a lot of character. Those times are really hard to play, like when it's nail-biting and stuff like that, to just stay calm and poised, especially against a team like Missouri State who's just always going to fight to the end. So, yeah, I feel like we just had to stay calm, be poised, and even though we went to overtime, we still ended up with a 10-point win. So I feel like when we got into overtime, we knew that it's go time and we have to win. So I think that's what motivated us.
Look, it helps when your brother has played college basketball at a high level. You can lean on him for advice and be like, hey, what to kind of expect when I get into league play. But it's different once you finally go through it.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you've had 14 games within the league underneath your belt, Rollins, what's the number one thing you can point to be like, Yep, this is what I've learned about the Missouri Valley very, very quickly.
That anybody can beat anybody any day. So, like, and it's like everybody is equal, even though the records doesn't say it's like everybody's equal. Like anybody at the top of the conference can beat the bottom of the conference, or the bottom of the conference can beat the top of the conference. So any day you just have to play your best basketball because you don't know when you're going to lose or who you're going to lose to, no matter what the seeding is or no matter how much games they've won. So it's like everything is just so equal, and especially in this conference, like just knowing that you always have to come into every game thinking the same way, no matter who you're playing against. So.
How would you assess your season to this point, Rollins? What's been maybe the biggest positive? Let's talk about the biggest positive for you that you believe you've helped this team out.
I think just bringing energy, like bringing a spark. I think that's been my positive. I think a lot of people know that. Like, I try to come into the game, bring energy, get rebounds, like block shots, stuff like that. Just try to play as hard as I can. Because, I mean, obviously, like, my role's not as big as everybody else's, but, like, I feel like those minutes I get, like, I do try to get a positive impact just to keep our team boosted up and stuff like that. So I think that's my big positive this season.
Big positive, and look, all of us look at ourselves critically in what we do. What's an area you look at yourself like, I want to make the final 6 games here in league play to be better than maybe what hasn't been a strength of yours so far? What's an area that you're really kind of focused on right now to improve, Rilo?
I feel like right now it's like obviously everybody's like selfish in their own ways. So
Yeah.
I feel like my thing is just like trying to like stay level-headed and like when things don't go my way, try to keep a positive attitude. Even if I have to fake it, like just try to keep a positive attitude. Because like when things don't go my way, I tend to like shut down or like just stay quiet, or you could like see it on my face. But like I'm trying to like for these last 6 games, like I'm trying to like stay away from that and just keep a positive vibe and positive energy so everybody around me can like feed off of it and stuff like that.
Don't want to answer it for you, Rollins, but how much of this year has been trying to get the game to slow down a little bit at times for you too, and where because your energy level is so infectious for everybody. And look, there's no doubt when you take that floor, you can tell you bring energy. It's just trying to maybe get that a little bit more controlled at times. Have you felt that too? Has that been a fair observation?
I feel like that's what I've been just trying to. I've been talking to my brother and talking to like my friends and family just about like slowing down because I almost coming in like high energy and trying to like be a good energy guy for everybody, but like sometimes I play too fast and then I end up like getting fouls and getting foul trouble early and stuff like that. So like I'm trying to just like play slow. I feel like that's gonna be my biggest key for next season and stuff like that. Just trying to like calm down, play at a good pace and stuff like that instead of just trying to rush because I know my role's gonna be like different next year. So like, yeah.
Yeah, and even you look towards obviously next year, but even now, Rollins, you play a really massive role for this group, and it's been seen when your motor's going, especially when you're involved in rebounding, it can really affect this team in a really big positive way.
Yeah.
What do you sense with this group of just as you guys move forward, as you enter the final 6 games, being at 7-7 in terms of the Missouri Valley Conference, what do you guys talk day to day about of what this group can accomplish here down the stretch?
Obviously, we all think that we can make the tournament. We think we can beat anybody in the conference on any given day. So, like right now, the coaches and the players, we've just been focused on like this last month and like things we have to give up, whether that's just things that you do on the daily, the bad habits that you need to give up and stuff like that. So that's what we're all just trying to do, just trying to take away those bad habits and everybody just put 110% into what we're trying to build here and try to like make it far, especially in the tournament, just getting ready for like next month and stuff like that.
Everybody's year is different and unique, Rollins, and you look at the last month of the season and the level of that Kennard is playing at, that Ali is playing at, that Jarrett has played at an extremely high level. What have you taken from those guys of whether it's their day-to-day approach, in terms of just your conversations outside of basketball? Like, what have those guys shown in their leadership ability that you believe that has helped you or just helped this team in general outside of course, production?
I feel like they've taken some things off and like trying to like put everything into the team. Like they work on recovery a lot, get up shots in, try to do like the little intangibles for our team to like stir in the right way. So I think that those type of things is like rubbing off on everybody else. So like it's bringing their leadership is helping on everybody and keeping everybody motivated and stuff like that. So I think like what they're doing, like the way they're treating themselves, just even outside of basketball, is still like it's good. It's like rubbing off on the team the right way.
The number one question, Rollins, that I've probably been asked from folks over the last month is, what the heck did Rollins Aligbe say at Illinois State after the game? And one of those things that for you is, one, that's not my question to you, because I know and what I tell our fans and whoever asks me is all that stuff stays within you guys and the team in that locker room. That's what makes a team in the locker room special. But what really led you to speaking up in that moment, Rollins? Because that's not easy for a freshman to do that, especially after a 31-point loss on the road. That's typically a spot that's reserved for others. But again, not getting into the context of how it happened, just more of what led you to be like, it's time. Like, whether it's me or somebody, I feel like I need to say something at this time.
I feel like I'm obviously like a big voice. Like I'm loud, especially on the court and stuff like that. I might not talk outside the game and stuff, but I'm a loud person when it's like during basketball and stuff like that. But I think what led me to do that was just like I was just frustrated. I was frustrated in my play too, but I was also just mostly frustrated on like the whole team, because it was just, it's like embarrassing, like going out traveling and stuff like that. It's already been like a long weekend and stuff like that, and then traveling there and just like we didn't have no energy and stuff like that, and then you lose by 30. It's just like really embarrassing. So, and then I think we already lost like 5-6 straight by then. So we're just like, I just had it in me to like, I've done this before in high school and stuff like that. So it's not like I'm not embarrassed to do it. It's just like I felt like, obviously I'm not gonna get to context, but I just feel like it's something that needed to happen. And especially hearing it from a freshman, it's just like you never hear that from a freshman. It was always going to be the upperclassmen and stuff like that. But like I feel like sometimes we try to say those type of things, but like we're not saying it in a tone where everybody's going to start listening. So I was just like, just yelling and stuff like that. So I'm trying to say it in a tone where everybody's going to understand, and everybody's going to have to listen no matter if you want to or not. Like you're going to have to listen because the tone I'm using. So I feel like, it's like it was always like that, but like we would always not use the right tone, so it'll go out one year and go out the other. So I feel like that's what really made our turning point. Obviously, I'm not going to give all credit and say, oh, after I did that, we started
You're taking all
winning
the
and
credit.
stuff. We started winning and stuff like that. But I mean, I definitely think like that changed it. Like we flipped the switch right after that. And although we still lost some games in between that, but we definitely won way more. So it's just, I feel like that made our team just really tune into each other and stuff like that.
Only lost 3 games, I believe, off the top of my head since that point,
Yeah.
Rollins, which to me, that alone says the response. But what I'm curious by is, okay, you say that, you speak that. How did the team respond in the days following to that in terms of embracing it, and especially the guys who have had a lot of experience on the team, how have they not looked at you different? And maybe if they've looked at you any differently, they've looked at you like, yeah, we don't have to wonder about where this dude stands. Like, how did that help you with the team embracing you and not being like, man, like, why did he have to stand up and say like, because it could go multiple ways.
Yeah, I feel like it was a respect thing too. Like obviously they started like respecting me more and stuff like that, and I feel like those days after that, like we started going harder, like in practice and stuff like that. And then you can see like the next game against Belmont, like we just played way better, even though we lost. Like we played way better as a team, played with a lot of energy and stuff like that. So after that, we're like, oh yeah, like we can actually make it somewhere, because Belmont was like a top team in this MVC. So we're just like, okay, we can make it somewhere, and then we just started trending up in the right way. So I think like it told them that I'm really serious about winning and stuff like that, and I don't like losing like nobody does. So.
Look, Rollins, I really don't mean this to try to be funny, but do you even really remember vividly the Bradley game back in December? It's been so long, and it seems like it's been 10 years ago since that game. And, of course, that was league game number 1.
Yeah.
But what do you remember about that game that is set with you guys that you're really looking forward to an opportunity here on Wednesday?
Well, I remember that game. I was like still coming off like an ankle injury, so I was like,
That's right. See,
my
it's been so long. I forgot about your ankle in Florida.
My ankle was hurting and stuff like that. So, but I feel like that game, just no energy and stuff like that. Like we weren't playing to our highest level, and they just came in and just whooped us. So like now it's like everybody had this one like tallied on the calendar. Like, okay, yeah, we know we have to get back against them, and we have to beat them this time. And they've been struggling recently, so we just got to get them at the right time. So I'm like, we're all really excited for this game, and really like thinking we can get on the road and get one, because we've been playing really good on the road too. So.
Yeah, 4 straight road wins, which is a remarkable streak. To kind of build off of it, defensively has been the common thread. offensively. No doubt the shots have been falling
Yeah.
more from on the perimeter the last couple of games, Rollins. But what do you credit defensively with Coach Hawk and kind of him taking over the defense? Like from a player side, what's been the difference? What would you credit as this has helped us defensively and for whatever reason here over the last
I
month?
feel like, no, big shout out to Coach Hawk, just trying to, like, always critique everything and try to make it, even like when we're in film, he always tells, like, Justin, like, take it back, just to tell us, like, what covers we're supposed to be in, where our line is, like, where we're supposed to be on the court, like, how we're supposed to defend and stuff like that. So I feel like he has a big part in it, and he's always critiquing everything, even in practice. Like if you make the false step, like he's going to tell you about it and stuff like that. So big ups to him on like trying to make everything, and you can see it. Like our defense is getting way better. Like we're scrambling, we're flying around the court and stuff like that. So big ups to him for changing our defense and stuff like that.
And then to build off of that, how much has it truly been? I mean, it's kind of I don't want to say it's a total cliche, but so many people do like to say, hey, defense will feed your offense.
Mm-hmm.
But how has that really been true over the last
It
month?
definitely does because, I mean, as you can see, like, we've been being more athletic, getting more steals and stuff like that. Like, we're running the break. Once we get a rebound, everybody's running or once we get a steal, everybody's running, more dunks are happening and stuff like that. So I think, like, the defense really fuels the offensive side, too. Because once you get a steal, everybody wants to go. Or, like, get a rebound, everyone wants to go. So I think, like, better defense makes everybody more energetic to just keep going and stuff like that.
We'll get you out of here on this note, Rollins. I mean, you've been, like you said, you filled a really big role for this team, and we'll continue that here down the stretch. But the development of Jorge really later on this year, Jorge's been huge over the last couple of weeks. So obviously we've already talked about Jarrett, but what is it about all of you guys where you bring something a little bit different? Some of it's similar, but when all of you guys are going, when Jarrett, you, Jorge are all playing at a high level, how much of a challenge does that really pose for teams when they have to deal with all of you guys? And because all of you bring a little bit of a different skill set.
I think it definitely poses a big challenge because we all bring a different thing. Like, Jarrett likes to shoot and stuff like that, so it's going to be hard on the defense to play on him. Or he's really good back to the basket and stuff like that. And I'm just, like, ultra aggressive and stuff, and, like, get a lot of rebounds and stuff and just play hard. So I think, like, if a team's trying to guard, like, all three of that, you have to change up your defense every single time. So I feel like it's really becoming a good thing. Like, I feel it's hard for defenses to guard because you have three different type of big mans all playing in one game. So it's definitely hard for our opponents and stuff like that.
Rollins, it's been so much fun to see you guys really turn this thing around, keep this thing rolling. I know everybody's looking forward to the opportunity on Wednesday night against Bradley. Appreciate the time, brother.
Thank you.
We're going to take a break here on Inside Saluki Athletics. When we return, come back with women's basketball head coach Kelly Bond White with the voice of Saluki Women's Hoops, Larry Larson.
We're here on Inside Saluki Athletics, presented by Pagliai of Carbondale, joined by head coach Kelly Bond White. And coach, another weekend that was a roller coaster. Definitely a high on Friday, more of a low on Sunday. But with this young group, continuing to see some steps forward. In addition to some of those growing pains. What were your kind of thoughts on the weekend as a whole?
Well, this season has really challenged me to just try to remain in that neutral area. There's been a lot of lows. There have been some highs, but for the sake of our young ladies, I've tried to stay right there in the middle of it. And obviously in coaching young people, you try to light a fire. And I always tell them motivation is fleeting. It comes back to our habits. Everything will come back to the habits that we continue to build. And that's why discipline is always greater than motivation. We have some young ladies that are struggling. And we talked about what that feels like. We have some people that, feel exhausted, a little bit. And it's February. Every team you go to, I don't care if they're undefeated, you got some tired folk, but that's the cost of this. Now, we had some people, we just lost somebody to the flu today, and hopefully that doesn't spread throughout our team. But you know what? You just try to keep it level. You try to keep them focused on what they've been focused on all year, and that's getting better. You competed in the first half, and then you got hit We got into some foul trouble. And, it was kind of like, oh my God. And it was only about a 2 or 3 minute span. Um, but a lot of damage was done at that point. And then trying to get our kids back up to compete uh, at that point. But at the same token, you walked into a team that you lost to by double digits and you have them at home. And you're able to pull out that victory even when they make a run. At the end, when you get into a lot of foul trouble, you were able to show that perseverance, that grit, and pull out a W.
In terms of highlights this weekend outside of the win over Evansville on Friday, Gift Uchenna bringing in another Newcomer of the Week award, up to 15 double-doubles now. And it seems that she's gotten more and more consistent. And that's obviously the challenge with anybody who's new to the game here in the States, is finding that consistency. What do you think the next step is for Gift as she continues to grow?
I think just accepting the leadership and the work ethic that comes with the responsibility of that. I think Gift still has I think her ceiling is unlimited, and her tapping into that next level. I challenged her, this weekend through her frustrations, challenging her to be a better teammate to some of her young folks, even when, they're frustrated through some things. She's been through a lot. She knows what some of their frustrations are, and it doesn't negate her feelings. But to me, that's the next step, is ownership of, okay, yeah, I'm coming in, I'm getting numbers. I do think it's a young lady that would trade it all for team success as well. But I just think the next step for her is embracing, that, okay, here this is. I know I can do this. I know I can be better on some nights, but the consistency is, now I'm going to bring that energy and really, really invest in my teammates and get to know them on and off the floor, because that's the next step for the program, is overcoming individual things so we can continue to grow together.
No doubt. And looking ahead to this weekend, Missouri State coming in on Thursday, always a challenge, as we saw down in Springfield. And then UIC, the one team in the back half of the schedule that we haven't seen yet, but they've shown that they can beat some of the best teams in the conference.
Yeah.
What are you expecting from those two teams this weekend?
And physicality from both of them. And that was something that tripped us up at their place. I don't think that was the first time we really played in front of a true crowd, was at Missouri State. And I think that was a little intimidating for our young ladies. But then the physicality of the game. And that was something that when we came back, that was something with our men's practice team that we just hit them. And I told them, hey, I wish I could bring out the Tom Izzo shoulder pads and everything else like back in the day. But we can't coach like that right now. But just trying to get our kids to understand it's a physical game. It's tough. You turn on the TV, you watch some of these games that are going on. Like it's almost like a gladiator sport. And we got to be ready to step up to that challenge and throw some of those blows ourselves early. But both programs are physical, defensive-minded teams that can get up and down the floor. And one thing our young ladies have to do a better job of is understanding pace. And again, we didn't understand that in this latter game. Both games this weekend, we struggled with pace and tempo. Even when we had a 17-point lead, we got to pushing that ball and not understanding that the clock is our friend and you want to stay aggressive. But you don't want to just take quick shots that trigger your opponent's transition and get them in to some easy buckets. So those are areas that we're going to have to work on with both these teams rolling in here this next week.
With this weekend, two big causes behind both games. You got pink out game on Thursday against Missouri State, and then the blackout cancer game on Sunday against UIC. Obviously those causes, supporting cancer research funding. Kind of walk me through what those causes mean to the program and how you sum it up for, a lot of players who haven't been around weekends and games like this before.
Yeah, we talked a lot about our pillars, and the last S in our pillar stands for service. And what I love about the pink out and the blackout is it removes you from thinking about yourself. You watch the battles that some of our relatives, parents, family members, and friends, and some of us have gone through and faced. And you realize that's what the fighting spirit is all about. Any cancer patient will tell you they can't control the outcome, but they can control their response to when they hear those words. And most choose to fight. And so, with our young ladies, that's what this week is going to be about in terms of not thinking about what battles we're going through, but what are other people going through? Who can I stop this week that I'm going to put into our little bucket in the room and say, every day, this is who I'm going to practice to play for, because I know they're fighting for something far greater. And that's why I've always loved Pink Out. I hate cancer. I hate cancer. I hate, all of them, but it has affected pretty much all of us at some level or other. But that's what I want our young ladies to focus on, is not ourselves, but on those folk that could use support and that could see us fight for them.
Such a great cause with, combining with our partners at SIH, and, the community really is bigger than basketball. Coach, appreciate the time, and we'll talk later this week.
Appreciate it, Larry. Thank you.
We'll have more Inside Saluki Athletics presented by Pagliai of Carbondale coming up next.
Welcome back, everybody, to Inside Saluki Athletics, presented by Pagliai of Carbondale. It's now time to check in with Saluki softball. They got one weekend in down at the Auburn Tiger Invitational. Coach Sewell here to recap it for us and, of course, preview yet another SEC opponent this weekend at Mississippi State. Coach, appreciate the time. Kind of listening the truth throughout the weekend. No doubt, as you kind of hinted to him, maybe some first game jitters, which you kind of expect that in the first game. But as it went along, how'd you feel when you left and came back after the weekend was completed?
Yeah, I think for sure App State was I think I asked after the game actually who was nervous, and of course veterans, no low heartbeat. Everybody else who joined us in the fall was like, yeah, I'm still getting, but by Sunday I think you could tell everything was working pretty good. So
in terms of, obviously you were able to win that last game, App State, what did that show you about your group to go through the weekend that you had to have probably a very long day on Saturday? I think it was around 13 and a half hours was your day at the ballpark to turn around and show up and play the way you did.
Yeah, and I think that's what the coaching staff knew about that group was, we were out of food by the time the first game started. So we're all looking at each other like, what are we going to do about this really long day that's about to happen? But that's why we're built the way we're built, and then jump back on Sunday. And I think that's actually our first win over App State as a Sunbelt team. I think we're 1-3 now against them. So it was good to come back and get that win. They punched us in the mouth on Friday, and then Sunday they were up on Auburn as well and played very well against UNC, too, our in-state rival. So it was nice to really I was expecting a win on Sunday. I wasn't expecting a run-roll win, and I thought that really spoke to, all the things that we talked about. We kept saying, hey, we're one hit, one play, one pitch away, and then on Sunday you saw it explode. So
we talk about margins, right? That's really how small those margins can be in terms of being a championship team like you were last year, and just in terms of just winning a game on a day. How valuable was that for your team this weekend to really show, here's the margins of us getting back into the game, maybe the game's going the other way, versus the way they did ended up falling for you on the weekend?
Yeah, and I think they went through probably those 3 middle games thinking, man, if I could just have one pitch, one play, one swing back, or if I, could have got that ball to go, or that, stolen base, or that little call. And I didn't see anybody drop their heads. I didn't see anybody get down on it. I had kids come up to me after a couple games and say, hey, I'm gonna be better. I'm gonna make that play in a couple weeks. And, you're able to show people, like, I know you're gonna make that play. It's just getting comfortable with us. And again, we've talked about it from January. It's tough on purpose, and you have 2 choices. You can get down about it, or you can make the play. And I think we'll make those plays. We'll get that hit. That ball will go out. That call will go. So
defensively, you knew that, hey, there's going to be new pieces to this thing and really trying to get this thing figured out. What was the biggest takeaway defensively for your group in the first weekend?
We have to figure out where to be with this new pitching staff. Last year, we knew we had really 2 or 3 kids, and we just knew where to stand. And I thought we got beat, and that's on us as a coaching staff. We got beat up the middle a couple times, got beat in the 5-6 hole, and we need to figure out where to be. And in that big park, you know, you had to manage doubles a little bit. You had to keep the ball off the wall, keep everybody on first base. And I thought we got better figuring that out. We're going to need to play a little bit more up the middle with Jackie and Aaron, and then with a new third baseman, making sure that we were in the right spot. And it took us a little bit to figure out, like, you know, what Emma Gibson and Key are going to do versus what a Mac and a KT Dahlstrom are going to do.
Look, Coach, you would love to treat, and I'm not saying you treat these games any differently, but what I'm alluding to is more of your pitching rotation, your pitching staff. You would love for it to be like, hey, this is how we're going to be in an NCAA regional.
Yeah.
But you also got to get there. You also got to get through the season. So how much of a challenge is it right now for you and the staff and really the team of saying, okay, how can you divvy up these innings? Make sure you're not maybe riding someone a little bit too hard just in terms of their health status kind of at this point. And that dynamic here early in the season, why that's important and how that's really kind of dictated what you guys can do as a staff.
Well, and I think you saw it with all the teams that were there. UNC was really the only team that put out somebody and maybe got close to the complete game. Had a very clear number one. The rest of us were very much pitching by committee, and you could tell we were all sort of jostling trying to make the switch at the right time. You know, get a good lefty matchup or a good righty on righty matchup. And I think all those teams were trying to figure out. They probably wanted one pitching change back, or maybe should have left one a little longer. But I think that's the way you have to resist the urge to just go for the punch out like in the third or fourth inning. You have to kind of let it ride one time through the lineup and see. And I thought we did a good job of not overreacting to like, oh, we've got a big lead, let's just hammer home the long starter and hope for the best. That's not what's best necessarily for her right now. But in May, it will be.
I know Mackenzie Newcomb is really a lot of excitement with her being brought here. How did you feel she did in terms of the first weekend?
Yeah, I think it was a reminder that she's still getting comfortable with us and we're still getting comfortable with her. I think in her previous school, they sort of dictated exactly what pitches they wanted. And I think she's kind of a veteran in the sense, so we want to remind her, like, if you see it, throw it there. You know, shake it and get something else. And I don't know that she had that kind of independence, but she has that kind of intuition as a pitcher. And with her now just being a PO and not hitting, she has the time to really go over those numbers and pay attention to that stuff. And she will catch on to a lot of those things. And so it allowed us to have a conversation. Like, if you see it, shake it and get Anna Carter to that pitch. And we're not there with you. So, or get us out there and say, like, hey, this is what I'm looking at. And that was a big conversation that we needed to have that we couldn't simulate necessarily in a scrimmage. So.
How big of a weekend did Erin Lee have in her role and what you saw from her? And, of course, everyone kind of goes to, of course, the big grand slam that she had in the Auburn game. But how would you say it was a really good weekend for her?
I think that's a testament to players in our program who don't transfer out after their first and even second season. Erin fought for that position and has gone through times where we flip-flopped her, we put other people there. And this is what I always tell recruits in the process. That is an example of staying home and figuring it out. And now in her junior season, and I think we talked about this earlier, those stars need to break out this year. You know, the Bakers, the Wilkersons, the Erin Lees, the Anna Carters, the Emma Austins, they need to take this team over. And I think Erin quietly is the one that's going to do that. And you see that chemistry with her and Jackie too defensively now. She's a very quiet individual, doesn't talk a lot, doesn't have a big, like, you know, she's not going to flex on you like Jackie when she comes home to home plate, but she's going to do her job. And I wish for her the biggest season that she could have.
Look, I know just one win wasn't the goal for the weekend, but what were things in terms of, you know, that you really look at as a coach outside of just the win-loss column? What were things that you were like, man, this was a step in the right direction? Like, we really improved in these areas.
Yeah, I think defensively for sure. We put up a 0 in the error column, which no team did in any of their games. And, you know, I think we just kind of settled into the ability to have some film and some conversations that we needed to have, especially with our pitching staff and our defense. I just, you know, I've talked since the fall. I've talked since the schedule got laid out. And I don't know if some people weren't just listening, but it's going to be rough. And it needs to be rough because we have been stuck inside and we cannot get to these conversations and film that we need to have by filming live hitters inside the indoor. So I think that's where defensively and hitting and pitching, we've got to get to these places where we can't make those mistakes in May. We can make them now. I can't correct them in May, or we're going to lose the ball game, or we're going to be in a tough situation. So now we can go back. We had, practically hitters and pitchers standing at the door when we came into the office yesterday wanting the film. So, and I think we're a team that can make quick adjustments. We don't need weekend 5. We can make it by weekend 2. So, but it's going to come power 4 after power 4 after power 4.
Yeah.
And that we're not going to make an excuse. We expect to get wins, but we also expect to learn a lot.
Look, and it's going to continue this weekend with, of course, Mississippi State. You see North Texas and then Georgia Tech as well. But in terms of the setup of this weekend, mention how you had a really long day at the park at Auburn, 13 and a half hours. Much different week in terms of that setup now. So not to say that's maybe a negative or a positive either way. It's what you make of it. But how do you set up your time, Coach Sewell, outside of obviously your game of how regimented you want to be in terms of your schedule with your ladies throughout the week?
Yeah, and I think we are a regimented group, but the one game a day situation will benefit us in the sense of pitching staff, who you, like we talked about, you don't need to go 100 pitches right now.
Yeah.
We had a kid accidentally in 3 innings go 90 pitches and face 22. That's simply like she was exhausted. That's not good work. So efficiency is key, and I think the one game a day really sets us up not only to play early in the day and use our staff well, but then to get back, get comfortable, study, do some of the other things that are important this time of year.
Yeah.
And get to the film and just kind of have some chemistry with each other, be around each other, watch some other teams play and how they do it. So I like this schedule in the sense, we do play well against Mississippi State. We played historically very well. So I think I'm looking forward to something different, something that split doubleheader is very hard on a program. We've talked a lot about student-athlete welfare and in just the conference and in our sport in general. I don't know that anybody should be anywhere 14 hours. So, that's why most people work 8 to 5 and then go home. So
and especially in the sun, outside, all those factors.
Minus the food, minus the water, minus the hydration, jumping into a 78-degree humid day. So, and I want to do what's best for them, especially early in the season, staying healthy. So I like this sort of, it backs us off a little bit and allows us to really spend some time with each other, but we need to play. It's clearly obvious. It's time. It's go time.
Oh, obviously, when you got a number next to your name, you're really good. I know Mississippi State, entering the season in the top 25. I believe they're in the top 25 as well this week. They got off to a good start. Most of the teams you're playing this week have gotten off to good starts. So, in terms of the competition side, again, it's going to push your team to the absolute limits. What do you believe are a strength of kind of each team, starting with Mississippi State to North Texas and Georgia Tech?
I think Mississippi State is probably as dynamic offensively as they've ever been. When we faced them in the past, they were a big power-hitting, jacket out of the park kind of team, one big swing away. I think they're a little more hybrid on offense, and they've got a great number one throwing for them right now with Raylan Chafin, who we faced at LSU last year, has moved over to Mississippi State. So a clear number one, gave up 0 earned runs, and it wouldn't surprise me if they roll her right out there. So we're getting everyone's number one, I can tell that. Georgia Tech has, in a very tough now, 17-team ACC conference, I think. They're, just so deep in that conference, and they're up against some teams that have been to, the FSUs and the Virginia Techs, who are in the World Series. So they'll be sharp, very well coached by an alum. And North Texas has typically had great pitching and been good on offense, and they showed back up statistically that way this year.
Coach, really appreciate the time. I know it's always really a short turnaround, long weekend of travel, and you're back on that bus on Wednesday heading down, but appreciate it, and we wish you the best this weekend.
Awesome. Thanks, Luke.
Once again, that was head coach Sid Sewell. We'll be back with more here on Inside Saluki Athletics, presented by Pagliai of Carbondale. Well, last week we were more than a week away. Now, don't even have to wait a week for Saluki Baseball. Friday is when it begins down at UT Rio Grande Valley, and here to join us is the head coach of Saluki Baseball, Lance Rhodes. Coach Rhodes, all right, how you feel now? It's game week now. Is it one of those things where you're just as a coach, right? Let's go. Like I already know the lineup card. Let's roll out. We're ready to roll.
Yeah, this week's a struggle, man, just for everybody. You know, players, coaches, everybody's just so anxious to get on the bus and head that way. And it's one of those things where, you know, we still got to do some preparation. We got some bullpens to throw today, tomorrow, and really just kind of fine-tuning things, making sure our bodies feel good. Our inner squads are over with. We don't have to play each other anymore. Got through that weekend. Everybody's healthy, ready to rock and roll. And it's just more just that anxious feeling of just ready to get it rolling, you know. And I'm sure everybody in the country is kind of feeling that same exact way. And especially when you get some bad weather coming in, it's just like, man, let's just get out of town and get down and play some baseball.
Yeah, kind of jealous that you guys are going to be able to dodge when we're going through another winter storm front. You'll be able to go down, and I know they say it'll be cold in Texas, but when your lowest is 68 degrees, we'll take that, Coach Rhodes.
Oh, yeah. No, it's whenever we were telling the guys the temperatures when they were saying 68, they were like, oh, this is going to be great. You know, their coach is on the phone with me yesterday saying, yeah, it's going to be a little cold. You know, it's going to be 68. And so we're excited about it, and it's going to be a cool experience. I really think so. And just a really neat ballpark that we're going to be playing in front of, a really good atmosphere. You know, traditionally they've done really well attendance-wise, and I hope our guys are able to experience that with the crowd and, you know, the weather and opening weekend, just finally getting to play somebody else. It should be a really good opening weekend.
You touch up on your emotions of how when you get to this week, everybody, it's hard on coaches and players, but when you do put on that uniform for the first time as a coach come Friday, Coach Rhodes, like, what are your emotions like when you know you're putting on that top for the first time for a year and you're heading to the ballpark for the very first time with this group?
Yeah, still get those butterflies just like you did when you played. Those same emotions, you know, they're still there as coaches, and just because, you know, those competitive juices, like, they're rolling. You know, we're watching the scouting report. We've been watching it for, you know, a week or so now, and we feel like we know who they are, and, you know, I'm sure they feel like they know who we are as well. And it's just about, you know, putting our guys in situations where we think they're going to be successful, and allowing them to go out and be who they are. We got some really good players, and we want to make sure that as coaches, you know, we prepare them and prepare them well. And I think, you know, more on the anxiousness of the coaching staff is like we just, you know, we want to put our players in a position where they feel like, hey, we really know these guys, and we want to just make sure we do our part. And I know we're a really good competitive team, and you just kind of want to get off to a good start. And whether that's a win or loss, you just want to, you know, go out and play well. And there's going to be some obstacles just with the newness of our players. How quick can those guys settle in? How quickly can we get used to playing on a natural surface? And a lot of those things may or may not come into factor. You know, those are things as coaches you kind of wonder, but we've got the maturity with our players, our leadership, that a lot of those little outside factors may not even come into play.
How do you notice that? Like when you know your team's got the maturity level that is needed, what are ways through your practices, your inner squads to get to this point where, you know, you can sit here on game week and know your team's got that right level?
Yeah, you know, I think, you know, one of our assistant coaches was speaking with an umpire on Saturday at our inner squad who had done a lot of our fall inner squads, and the umpire mentioned to him, hey, this is a completely different team than what it was in the fall. And I think that's a really neat thing to hear from an umpire who was with us pretty much all fall, and then was with us just a little bit, you know, for that game in the spring, to kind of hear that from an outsider that's not with us every single day, to say, man, this is a different team. And that's what we're hoping as coaches, that we aren't the same team that we were in the fall, and there's a lot of growth there. And, you know, we've seen that throughout our entire group. And but the biggest thing is whenever we get down into an environment with a different team and a different opponent, it's just like those anxiousness, those nerves, all that kind of rises to the top a little bit. And hopefully the age of our players, the fact that they've played college baseball prior to this, they're going to be nervous. That's just being a human being. Hopefully that will settle down rather quickly and we can get to just playing baseball to the best of our ability.
Brought in Coach Mack. One of the areas that I've been impressed talking to your guys and leading into the season with our podcast series is so many of the guys who, of course, are more that, obviously have a bat in their hands. They said, Coach Mack has helped us so much throughout this offseason. What do you believe he has really added to? Because guys just don't say that. Coach Rhodes and baseball guys are always very known to speak their mind and really tell you kind of how they feel. When they're saying that a coach has had a big impact on them, that is not sugarcoating. They're not just saying it for lip service and to say, hey, Coach Rhodes, good job bringing him in. Like they really appreciate what he's done and brought to the program.
Yeah, whenever we had this opening, there were some people that I really trusted that highly recommended him. And as I got to talking with Coach Mack more and just hearing what he was about, his philosophy, how he went about it, I knew it was exactly what we needed in our program. And technically sound, he's a very good hitting coach, but he's also he's a good motivator as far as being able to he can push you to your limits and then really love on you at the same time. And I think that's a good balance there, whereas coaches, you're really, you're trying to technically teach them how to, approach an at-bat, approaching a swing. And, I think he sees things really well. He makes changes really well. But then also there's something to be said about you can't just get always caught up in mechanics and things like that. Sometimes it's how are you going to compete in the box. And I think he does a really good job of challenging those guys, pushing those guys, and, also at the same time knowing the balance of, okay, how far can you take it? And then now I need to start loving on you too. And it's just kind of balancing all those things. And I think he's done a really good job with all of that.
One of the consistent guys, too, that gets brought up in those interviews when I go, hey, who's impressed you throughout the fall, early here as you get into the spring? Alec Niggett, his name continues to get brought up. What have you guys seen day to day that gives you that confidence level? Man, this guy can really make a jump this year.
Yeah, he's, we've talked about it several times with some pitchers in our league that have been on, a Tuesday that's next year made that big jump into a weekend rotation. And Alec has been on that rise. Ever since he got back from, training over the summer, it's just looked different. His presence has been there. He goes about his business like a weekend starter that's successful. He puts his work in. You don't have to worry about anything that he does. He is this absolute, like a dream to coach when it comes to every area of how he handles, just being a student athlete. But along with that, everything has gotten better. The command has gotten better. The ability to throw breaking balls, the ability to throw changeups in counts when you're ahead, when you're behind, like just everything as a whole has ticked up. And, I am excited to give him the ball. He's going to go on Saturday. And excited to see him pitch on the weekend rotation. And, I know it's something that, a lot of these guys are striving for, especially when you're in that starter role last year as a midweek guy, anxious to hopefully earn that opportunity to pitch on a weekend, and he's definitely done that.
As you know, Coach Rhodes, sometimes you can get caught up in where guys have been. And whether you look at a roster and you can see where they transfer in from, and just when you see a big-name school, you can automatically assume that guy's got to play a big role. And sometimes the case that can maybe there's a reason why they're not there anymore. But I don't think Jordan Husky really fits that criteria coming into your team. Started off at Arkansas, went the junior college route, really great personality as well, talking to him and heading to the season. How much of a role do you see for a guy like Jordan Husky filling for your team this year?
Yeah, we've got high hopes for Jordan, and not necessarily just the fact that he has that Arkansas tag to him. That's something that, in high school he committed there fairly early and went there. And obviously, their pitching staffs are very deep. And, as a freshman, just didn't get much opportunity there. And then went into a junior college and went to one of the better junior colleges in the country and put up some really good numbers. And, again, he's another kid that as he got here just continued. He showed well early and has continued to show well throughout. And he's definitely has the ability to pitch on the weekend with his just stuff. I mean, it's not going to just absolutely wow you like, hey, this is just electric, but it is good stuff. If it's good command, its ability to throw off-speed pitches for strikes. But the biggest thing for him is he's got the competitive nature that you look for to go along with that stuff that helps make the pitches, be a little bit better than they are, because he just has that kind of like that will to win. And, he'll go on Friday night for us, and we're excited to have him get us off. And we think he's another guy, too. On Friday, there's a lot of things to factor into. You just kind of want to settle yourself into the weekend. And you got to be super competitive, because the other guy that you're facing is going to be pretty good. And we think he has the intangibles to throw on that, on that day, along with the ability to throw on that day as well.
Look, last year, Cole Chrisman was such a warrior for you and really had to eat up so many innings behind the plate. Mason Schwalbach seems like can be a guy that can do that again this year. And then John Lim, I know, has gotten chances as well. Jordan Bach has rotated in there at times just because of his catching background. Where do you see in terms of having someone steady that's there, but also not just someone you have to throw out there because there aren't other options, if that makes sense, behind the plate for you, Coach?
Yeah, I do think we have some depth at that position. And the good thing is we're eventually going to probably settle into somebody that catches majority of those innings. But we also, it would be nice to be able to, put a guy in there once a weekend or on a midweek game just to keep the legs fresh for whoever that main catcher ends up being. And the good thing is between Schwalbach and Lim, one of those guys can DH while the other one catches. Schwalbach also has ability to play first base. Lim has ability to play right field. Bach's a good option. Tate Lewis is caught well. We have some options back there. Tate Lewis also a right-hand hitter compared to the other ones that are left-handed hitters. Just gives us a little balance there. So I feel pretty good about our catching situation. They all bring a little bit different skill set to the table. Lim can really, really throw, which would, if we ever get into a situation where we really need to shut the running game down, Lim can throw with the best in the country with his arm strength back there. Schwalbach's just got a good presence about him, knows the game, like a very smart, headsy baseball player. Which is, exciting to have a catcher with that kind of skill set. So, I think we'll see how it all situates itself out as far as who gets the majority of the catching part of it.
Yeah.
But a lot of those guys are going to find their way into the lineup with their bat.
Look, Coach, there are so many guys, and as you said, there's a lot of really good stories within the League of the Valley just in your time of guys who have maybe shifted roles, who are once starters, get moved to a bullpen role, and absolutely thrive. Guys who maybe were a bullpen role, get moved to a starter. That flips the switch as well. Not saying that has to happen for a guy like Al Holguin, but someone who's got a lot of experience already pitching within this league last year. How can that help him? And then whatever role that you and Coach Tribby and Al kind of go into the season that he can fill, that can be another guy, whether he can start a game for you or he can come in maybe when you're in a little bit of trouble, where Al can really help this team this year.
Yeah, you look back at, he's had a lot of success at the Division I level, which is nice. The thing about Al, we're starting 2 left-handers on the weekend, and we've got 2 more left-handers in the bullpen, and we really considered starting potentially those 2 left-handers that are in the bullpen on the weekend as well. And we just kind of wanted that balance of having options in the bullpen left-handed. We've never had left-handed options in the bullpen, and we wanted to have the ability to be able to kind of go into the weekend and read how the other team is handling the left-handed starters. Do we want to match those guys up in the middle of the game and just continue with left-handed, or do we want to mix it up? But Al's a guy that we know he has the ability to start and can be successful in that route if we need to make a change at some point. But we also think that he can be a very valuable bullpen arm that can come in for extended periods of times. If we get off to a rough start, we can bring him in. He could eat up 4, 5, 6 innings. We could also use him multiple times on a weekend if we did it in short stints. So I think there's a lot of value there. As you've seen too, very rarely do the way you start with your rotation, does it end the same way.
Absolutely.
So it wouldn't surprise me one bit if Al works himself into the rotation. And if that happens, we would feel good about that. But, I have high hopes for Al. I think he's going to be a very good piece for our staff this year.
Look, you mentioned how you try to watch as much video as you can as you head into a season of UT Rio Grande Valley, your opponent upcoming this weekend. What impresses you about them? What do you believe is like, man, I'm excited to see them play against our guys because they're going to push our guys in some really good areas.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's going to be fun is on Friday night, the kid that we're going to face was the pitcher of the year in the WAC in 2023. Now, he missed after the first start in 2024. He threw 5 innings, struck out 10 guys on opening day last year, and then went down with injury and did not pitch the rest of the season. So, it's going to be interesting to see. If you look at their starting rotation, they got that kid on Friday. The guy that they're throwing on Saturday missed the entire 24 season with injury. And then the guy that they're throwing on Sunday pitched half the season and missed the second half of the season with injury. So every one of their starters are going to have that feeling of being on the field for the first time in over a year, which is, sometimes a good thing, sometimes not a good thing. So it'll be interesting to see how those guys handle getting back on the field. And we'll also get challenged too, because that guy on Friday night, I mean, he's the real deal. If he's what he was in 23, he'll be tough. And it'll be a good challenge on opening night. And, I know just from their side of it, I mean, they've been out every single day on the field.
Yeah.
They're definitely going to be ready to play. And, we've been outside for majority of our practices too. So we're not going to have any excuses with that. But, it'll be they've got a lot of team speed. So we'll have to control the running game. We'll have to control the bunting game. I don't necessarily think they're just going to stand up there and slug the ball over the fence. I don't think they're that kind of team. But it'll be interesting because it's going to be kind of two opposite offenses where, we're slugging, we're doubles, we're home runs. And they're going to be the opposite of that with speed and small ball.
You talked about the environment, how it's really going to be a great environment on Friday. The season tickets, believe, have already been sold out down there. It's going to be a firework night as well, even though they may have to bring their winter parkas with it being 68 degrees down there in Texas. But I say all that, though, in terms of the environment, it's going to be great. Is there any sort of expectation level of how you feel their park will play in terms of your offense, if this could be a really good park to play in, or kind of yet to be determined once you get down there?
Well, it's a big park. It's the lines are 325, but the gaps are 380, and dead center is 401. And, so there's a lot of room out there. We're going to be a team that takes advantage of doubles and home runs. Are we going to hit those balls over the yard in this big of a yard? I mean, I hope we can run a couple out of there.
Yeah.
But it's also a lot of green out there when you got gaps that big and center field that deep. And, we might not live on a home run this weekend, but we might, live on the doubles and triples. Because some of our guys who had the ability to hit the ball at the park, they're not slow guys either. When we put a ball in the gap, we got a chance to hit a triple with several of these guys. We got a chance, we're for sure doubles. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays. When we get down there on Thursday night and take batting practice, we'll have a better idea. But it is a big park, so we'll have to, really get into some to get it over the park, over the fence.
Coach, looking forward to seeing your team play this weekend. Appreciate you catching up with us before you get on your travels later on in the week. And good luck this weekend, and we'll catch up with you next week.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Big thank you to Coach Lance Rhodes for stopping by. When we come back here on Inside Saluki Athletics, we wrap it up on this extended Inside Saluki Athletics Coaches Show. Head coach of Saluki Football, Nick Hill. It's been a while since been able to catch up with the head football coach, Nick Hill, for the Salukis. It's now time to catch up with them. We're about a month away from you guys getting spring football underway, which is hard to believe that it'll be that time. I know winter workouts, et cetera, full speed ahead. Coach Hill, it's good to see you, brother.
It's good to see you.
How's life going for you right now?
Life's good. Life's good. It's good to get back into the swing of, the off season and getting everybody here. And we're in week 5 right now. I mean, the time goes quick as far as being back in school and winter workouts, and such a vital part of your program of these 8 weeks. And then we'll take a break for spring break, and then we'll start spring ball March 20th. And so Yeah, just excited, rejuvenated as far as just, every team, whatever league you're in, the NFL, and I heard an interview with Tom Brady. What makes it so special, this game, is like once that Super Bowl's over or the FCS National Championship, everybody goes back to the same spot, and it's about laying the foundation. Each team is different, and so especially in these times where there's more change on your roster, so it's really just getting back to the basics, setting that foundation. You can't go too fast, and making sure the details and the culture and all of that is correct, and putting in the work when nobody's watching, right? It's basketball season, and it's but we have a job to do each and every day, and that's working when the lights aren't on, and that's the fun part. And if you don't enjoy that, you're probably not going to be good when the lights do come on. And so that's our job right now is just to be putting in work consistently every day.
For you guys, it's one of those things where you can't take it for granted, Coach, when you have your former players have such great success at the next level. And, of course, alluded to Jeremy Chin. I know there's a lot of other Salukis, too, still having success in the NFL game. But what did it mean to you to see him get to the NFC Championship game, almost on the precipice of getting to the Super Bowl? Would have been the second Saluki ever to play in one, join Brandon Jacobs. But still a great year for him. And, I mean, you know what that life is like when you're in a contract year. That creates so much pressure on individual, and it was just awesome to see Jeremy have the year he did.
Yeah, really just I was texting with him 2 days ago. My text to him was just really I'm like, happy for him, proud of him, number one. Always been proud of him, know what he's made of and how he got there. But now to just see a lot of that hard work, this is his first time playing in the playoffs. Didn't have that opportunity here. 2019, we felt like we kind of got robbed. Yeah. But just to see him get to play postseason football, I know it's been a goal of his for a long time, and it's a perfect example of just continuing to believe and put your head down and work, and to see that success. I mean, heck, he didn't really ever come off the field. I think, and in the NFL, it's about finding the right coaching staff that put you in the right positions and the right team, and I think that he's found that. Obviously, 1-year deal. I think this will pay off for him. Hopefully he gets to go back there because I know he's enjoyed that, and obviously with a good quarterback, and they can be good for a long time. So hopefully he's found a home. But proud of him. And then, Ryan Neal getting to, having a tough year and then getting called at the end of the season and then getting to play in a playoff game. And then Mike Cole, just Mr. Consistent here. I think Saluki fans need to, realize that, 10 years in the NFL and playing in each and one of those seasons and then, making an impact. I mean, he played in the playoffs again and 10-year vet. So having 3 Salukis in the playoffs was really cool. And PJ's doing well. PJ will be back here in a couple weeks. He's going to come stay at the house and be around the guys and stuff. So sign another futures contract with the Bengals. So he'll get another shot to make that team. And, they're all doing well.
Coach, let's kind of now backtrack a little bit with your program. And, dating all the way back to the postseason, there's so many things that obviously transpire throughout. Got to handle the portal, got to handle your roster, got to handle your staff too. So let's talk about just your staff from that standpoint. When a season ends, take just the Saluki Nation and the fans through the process of how you evaluate your staff when you do have to make a change like you did, what goes into that, and then, of course, the decisions that transpire of how do you, whether we should elevate guys, reward them who have been on our staff, or look elsewhere to bring guys in.
Yeah, it's one of the most difficult things, number one, because of the relationships that are involved and trying to do things, with integrity. And but yeah, it's difficult. But when you sit in that chair, those are the things that you have to do. And there's a lot of things that go on internally that you're consistently evaluating as the year goes on. And how we're going to move forward, and sometimes you have to make difficult decisions, and so those are probably the longest times for me anyways, as far as like lost sleep and just struggling with those things. And you got to make some tough decisions. Made the decision to make a change at defensive coordinator. I would be remiss to talk. I talked to him yesterday. Is Coach James, phenomenal coach, phenomenal person, and friend. And so I know that he's going to land on his feet. He's got a couple things going right now, trying to help him. Talk to some other coaches yesterday, just trying to where he ends up. And in this profession, usually that happens quite a bit. And so, and then you go about evaluating, which direction that you want to go in. So obviously, you interview a ton of people. I mean, I've interviewed a lot of people over this break, and then finding the right guy, the fit, at our level, who can you get to come here with the salaries that you have available, sometimes makes it an issue as well. And so you just evaluate, and you want to make sure you cast a wide net and make sure, but you always have some names in mind. So I was able to interview a few guys. I've been impressed by Coach Perron since he got here. A young coach, made him go through the interview process, interviewed in front of the entire staff, interviewed other defensive coordinators that he was a part of, listening, and just felt like he was the best man for the job from his organizational standpoint, communication. And I think that we're seeing that now, that the guys have been able to work with him. We're not in spring ball yet, but just the continuity, the communication among the staff, and then relaying it to the players. I think that he'll do a phenomenal job. I think Coach Mack as well, as far as taking an elevated role and really having a deep connection with Coach Prawn and them seeing it the same way, and really that front seven of Coach Mack, and then Coach Prawn obviously being the coordinator, but having that consistency, and then Coach Terry at the corners, and then having to hire a new defensive line coach. I think that we hired one, and then he left and went to South Dakota State, and then was lucky to find another really good one in Darius Davis, who's here now, and now we have a full staff that we can actually talk about. Sometimes there's some logistics involved in that. But yeah, excited to have the full staff here and rocking and rolling, getting ready for spring ball.
I know one of the other areas too, of course, Coach Rowland able to move on to Wisconsin, which really happy for him. I know he was a really big part of your staff here, and allows you to elevate a guy in Ryan McVicker to have a little bit more of a role along with you in terms of kind of going into that OC role. How you kind of saw that, why you thought that was the best way to approach it for you and your team?
Yeah, I think with that, obviously, same thing with Coach Rowland. Great friend, and anytime you work with somebody for an extended period of time, 5-6 years, and especially on that side of the ball, every coach in this profession, just like anybody listening, you're going to make the best decisions for you and your family. And Coach Rowland felt like that was the best, obviously, getting into Power 4 and the Big Ten and working for someone that he's known for a really long time. And so, that created some and I think that obviously sometimes change is good. Sometimes change and just a kind of a fresh look at things. And so, obviously the same thing, went through and interviewed some different people. Obviously that's a position that's pretty close to me. Obviously, who's going to be the quarterback coach, the coordinator. I've called plays a lot of my career, but when I've found, and I've been doing it now for a while, this will be year 10, of really settling in, especially at this place. At FCS, you don't have an extended staff and a lot of quality control people or analysts and all of these things. And so I think to be the best play caller that you can be, you've got to be entrenched in it deeply. You've got to be the coordinator. Sometimes when there's two guys in there, it's just you kind of bog each other down. I've found that if I'm going to do it and do it at a high level, I just have to go do it. And so then thinking about that, I've said this all along, if I would, go to the NFL, wherever, I probably would never take another job if Ryan McVicker wasn't with me. I really wouldn't. And so in that interview process, or who's best for this team, Ryan deserves it. He's been here with me for 7 years. I think you see this around the NFL now. There's a lot of young coaches that get hired. that are like that. Like, where'd that guy come from? Well, that head coach obviously trusts him, wants to elevate him because he doesn't want him to leave. What all the stuff that Ryan does, and now giving him the confidence to like take an elevated role. He'll do a phenomenal job. I think you got to think about too the current team that you have. Obviously, we feel like we have a really, really good quarterback room. DJ coming back and Curry and Hunter getting healthy, and our young guys and just that continuity. I think it was when I was going back and forth, I was having a conversation with DJ where I let him know, like, you don't have to worry about this next hire, a new OC, new offense. Like, I'm going to be coaching you, and we're going to put this thing and build this thing around you. And, it was him who's like, why aren't you hiring Ryan? And, I can remember, like, well, I'm thinking about, you know what I mean? He's definitely in the conversation, but that conversation right there was just like, that's who it's got to be, like quarterbacks have a great relationship already. It's not a new relationship. They know how much what Ryan does for everybody right now, including the players, and having them ready and everything. And so I thought it was pretty seamless. We work great to get together, which I think is super important. And so I'm excited to be back doing that.
Coach Hill, one of the guys that we caught up to during basketball season was Dan Muller, who was, of course, a really great player at Illinois State, head coach at Illinois State. One of the things he's like, look, the portal has always been around. It's just the transfer rules now obviously make it much easier to jump from one school to another. Look, we could spend probably the next, couple days in terms of interviews and talk about the pros, the cons of the portal. How have you approached those type of conversations with your guys, and what you have found most successful? And when you have those postseason meetings, what you try to do to educate them, to help them, because at the end of the day, that's what you're trying to do. You want to make the best decision, not just for Saluki football, but you bring these guys in individually because you really care about them as an individual, want them to make the best decision.
Yeah,
for
there's no
themselves.
doubt. And a lot of those conversations individually directed, I'll always be the one, especially now, that's going to try to advise them like I would if I was there. Like, sometimes there's a lot of value while I'm trying to say, I think this is the best place for you to stay, continue to develop, and play your best ball right here. As far as like, what's your goals, what's your short-term goals, what's your long-term goals. The portal is going to happen. Obviously, we've had several players that have moved on to good situations, and then we'll find out, what is that you're looking for. Keontae's, going and, significant amount of money to go to Oklahoma. And, those are things where the conversation's like, you need to go, like I'm not going to be the one here and paint this picture for you, because then, like I tell everyone, we're around each other much more off the field than we are on the field. I'm not going to be try to sell you on something that, we all need to get in here, parents included, and make the best decision. And, then ultimately my ultimate goal is to make Southern Illinois football the best. And then we've got to go there's a lot of guys in the portal that see this as the new opportunity and want to be here and see this as a better opportunity or whatever it is. And so it kind of works both ways. We've always added players from the portal. In this day and age, I mean, you look around, no one's immune to it. I don't care if you're Alabama or you're wherever. Good players are going to come and go. It's about creating that continuity like we have now, where everybody's here. And now let's build that thing. I don't get caught up in the you have to recruit your own guys. I think that's just should be a non-negotiable from the beginning. How you treat people and how you lay things out, if you're trying to scramble around and thinking that a portal window is about to open up and let me start, talking to them more or whatever it is, it's just this is how you're going to be treated here. We've never had anybody leave that's been like disgruntled or doesn't feel like they've, been treated the right way here. And so you go to bed feeling good about that. It creates a lot of work. There's, that it just seems like a blur from the time the season's over. Like you talked about hiring a staff, signing all these players. You're still signing high school players. So it's a lot of work. But I think if you just have great high-level communication, be honest, and treat people the right way, it's all going to work out.
I really don't want this topic to hijack the conversation. We'll get into your team, but kind of a two-parter here for you, Coach Hill. I heard Coach Saban bring up how there, of course, has to be a remodeling of what the schedule looks like. There needs to be, whether you call it one free agency period or whatever the case may be, there needs to be one time where the portal is open, not multiple times, such as right now once your season's over. Of course, during the middle of the playoffs for some FCS teams, of course, during the playoffs at the FBS level as well. One, do you believe that is an area we should go to? And two, in terms of the conversations with your guys, again, those conversations are between you and those individuals. That's not why I'm asking you the context of those. But how much has the roster limits and how that's going to really change the dynamic at the FBS level and trickle down, where maybe in the past there were maybe a few more spots for those guys, now there may not be, and how that needs to be a conversation, because the last thing you want is guys just to sit in the portal and not be anywhere where they were already in a good situation.
Yeah, I think that's a lot to unpack. Like you said, we could talk about it for a long time. I think for me, I think if you got every coach in here, we would all have a lot of similarities in what we think. What I always fall back on, no one is calling me or emailing me and asking me what my opinions are on it. And so I feel like you're wasting your time if you try to figure something out that obviously can't get figured out at the higher ups, right? And so it's about me. What's the rules? How are we going about the 2025 season? And we've got to attack that. You tell me the rules change. I feel like you start complaining about something. You start complaining about the portal. You start complaining about this or that. We have to change this. There's no rules. There's no anything. It's really just wasting your time trying to figure it out because, you hear it all, Nick Saban and all these, they don't have it figured out either. There needs to be some type of continuity. There needs to be somebody in charge. There's not a lot of that right now. There's no rules on tampering. There's no rules on any of this stuff. But that's what the game that we're playing right now. So we have to try to get as good as we can in that, and whatever that is. And so, I think the academic calendar and the schedule creates some problems. I don't think any student athlete should be put in that position. There's no other league in the world that free agency happens. It'd be like free agency hitting, during the NFL playoffs. It'd be like Jeremy Chinney's on a one-year deal. You're going in the NFC Championship game, and it's like, well, you can go sign with the Dolphins. You can't do that. Free agency period is after the season. Concentrate on the season. You can worry about that with your agent and everything. Postseason, there's a set time for this that's in the off season. Now you figure it out. Once you're going, now that each team knows that they all work within the same rules. And we're in college football, and you see that with bowl games and everything, guys not playing or whatever. It's the portal, and it's not really the student athlete's fault. It's within the rules. I mean, some of these games, the portal's open and is going to close, and they're still playing, so they have to get in if they're going to go. And so that's just the higher ups. Not it should be all about the student athletes, and a lot of times that's putting a stress and distraction in their lives that somehow needs to be taken away.
All right, let's get to your team, Coach Hill, and let's start with the quarterback room. I'll be honest, I was really surprised. I know, Grand, you still got spring ball right, and that portal will open again, but, for DJ, Hunter, and Jake, for all those guys to come back, and for all those guys to obviously have film to show what they could do this past year at a high level, kind of was thinking just to myself, not that, and trust me, I'm not talking this into existence, but I kind of figured that maybe one of them would go. To have all of them back, to me, that speaks a lot about the culture of this team and this program, doesn't it? Or is that just me just kind of making something out of nothing?
Yeah, well, all of them are, tremendous individuals. I think, obviously, we played 4 quarterbacks last year, so we got a good look at, all of them. I think, I think DJ can be, one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best in the country. I believe that. I've told him that. I think that he has a skill set that's pretty dynamic. I think what makes him the most special is just, and obviously this gets aired and everything, so his teammates see him working. I mean, this morning we're out there in the snow, we're working out. There has been, I think, if you would ask our team, it's just from the strength staff to the training room to everything, he holds himself at a high level. He leads at a high level. When he played in those 3 games, I think he was an elite player. and he knows that he's got to get better. And that's what I told him, is that I'm going to coach you, hard, hold you accountable. And the best players want to do that. They want that. And that's what you want to see out of it. It's like they want to be coached hard. They want to be the one being, told they're not doing something right. And because that's where you make the most gains. And DJ, accepting that and relishing in that makes him really special. Obviously, Hunter getting hurt, we'll continue to have with all of those guys, right? You saw it with Zach Zabrowski, who went on and won the D2 Player of the Year twice in a row. Like, playing quarterback is what is fun. Nobody wants to be, sit and be the third string guy. One of those guys, when we list the open, somebody's got to be a starter, somebody's got to be second, somebody has to be third, practice reps. And so I think that's where, like, a lot of communication comes in, and being open and honest. And so you could see that when the spring. Obviously, we have spring football. Hey, this is where we're at. This is the direction we're going. And then I think with, like, Jake Curry, I think the biggest thing with Curry, if he wasn't able to play this season, is we wouldn't have found out, like, what's inside of him as much. Like, it's hard. Like, we found out that kid's got a competitive spirit about him that you just can't see a lot of times in practice. Or, like, he's a credible worker, diligent, and all of that. But I mean, when the game is the kid has got a fire about himself. He's got a competitive edge about himself. He has a toughness about himself. And those are things you only get to see whenever you get out there on the field. I think Curry's got a super bright future here. And they all work well together. And then I'm excited about getting E.T. going. He brings a dynamic that nobody's seen yet. He broke his arm, a weekend of training camp, and has been out now. He's back out there. And then, bringing in the freshman quarterbacks as well. So we'll have a good quarterback room, and I'm excited about it.
No Power 4 offers for Michael Lindauer, trying to get one extra waiver in. I mean, sets the school record, and the phone wasn't ringing too much.
I would say, like, having Mike, his mom gets mad when we call him Mike. It's Michael. And so, but, he's back now on the offensive side of the ball as a GA. And just really enjoy working with Mike, as far as just he's going to be a bright coach too. So it's really, Ryan and Mike and myself in that quarterback room. And it's brought me a lot of joy, honestly. You find yourself sometimes in college coaching, this is just being completely honest, is how you work yourself up in coaching, and then you become the head coach. And sometimes it's a lot of delegating, and it's just being a CEO. And I found myself, wanting missing that a lot. And so you still, as the head coach, have to make sure that you're not getting blinded or just tunnel visioned and see the entire picture in offense and defense, special teams, and doing a great job with that. So it's a lot more, but I know that brings me a lot of joy, being able to get back in the trenches and coaching. And then whenever, like I told him, it's non-negotiable on all positions, but especially when you're in there with, like, a great group of guys. I mean, that's a lot of fun, and it's been fun getting back in there.
Coach Hill, one of the areas, no doubt, last year that was a strength when DJ was in there, the quarterback run game was essential and so big that, again, DJ ends the year as the leading rusher for the group. But that, no doubt, I know it was an area of focus for you guys offensively, to be able to run the ball in other ways. Where do you believe, again, it's early, you got spring ball, and then you'll ultimately get into fall camp. Well, what are areas that you and the staff, or Coach Clark with the offensive line room mixed in with that, right, we got to get better at this area? And do you feel here in a very small sample size that you're making steps in that direction to get better?
Well, everything at this time of the year for staffs look good, and there's optimism. It's all on the whiteboard, like, it's all on the whiteboard. Like, we run this play and they run this, we'll block them up like this, and it's going to be good, right? And then you get out there and there's moving pieces, and so I feel good about our plan and the vision for this offense on how we're going to do it. Spring ball will give us an opportunity to get out there and teach and see and really put the pieces together on the coaching things, on things that we can hang our hat on. I think that's the biggest thing, is, like, and last year with playing all the different quarterbacks, the strengths changing is like what was our identity. I felt like when you look back, in the run game, what do we hang our hat on? Who are we? Sometimes it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the other team knows, like, this is what you're going to see. You got to be able to stop it. But the biggest thing is, like, what's our identity in the run game? And so having a clear vision for that and a picture of that, I feel good about. We're still working towards that. That's the fun part of this, this year and or this time of year. And then spring ball will get us a real opportunity to see it come together and create what we need to then get back into for the off season and the summer to clean up. And then you need to have a real good idea in the summer of, like, this is who we see ourselves being.
Defensively, it's been great to see Bohannon stop by a couple of basketball practices just to say hello to me. He looks like he's doing really well, getting back into shape and getting into form. The importance of having him back and what you can see with him playing a role in what Coach Brown's defensive philosophy and emphasis will be.
Yeah, I think, those guys in that room, obviously Bohannon going down in week 2, really playing one game for us last year. And then Bogle having an incredible year and a guy that means so much to the program, just his energy and tenacity, and that entire linebacker group. I mean, Coach Mack has done an unbelievable job. He coaches them super hard, from the details to no one sliding in there. But when you think across the board as far as, Bohannon and Bogle and Shug and Presto, I think Andrew Bame that came in, we only got to see him play in one game. He's been incredible this offseason, transferred here from Akron, has a chance to be, and that's the biggest thing too, is like, hey, there's 6 guys probably in here. Miles Walsh is a guy that continues to bust his butt and work. And then we have a couple young guys as well. And so that room is a strength. And then that's our job as coaches. Like, we can say all we want of, like, this is on paper what we want to look like. It's about getting your best players out on the field, putting them in position to be at their best. And but having the assets of those guys is a strength of our team at the linebacker room.
Coach, I'll get you out of here on this note, and it's been great to catch up with you. I know this is really kind of a broad question, and it can probably go a lot of different perspectives of your team. But when you've had time to digest how last year went, you've been through the winter, December, now here in early February, what's been almost a non-negotiable for you of this has to improve? Like,
yeah.
This is the one glaring thing that we as a staff have noticed and that you're really hammering in your team. Like, it's a non-negotiable, guys. This is one of our main focuses.
Yeah, number one, like, when you reflect back, I talked to our team about this, an hour and a half, 2 hours ago when we were coming off the field. It's snowing, it's wet. They went through a tough workout, and, we were 4-8, and if that doesn't make you still sick to your stomach, if that sits okay with you or you forgot about it, like, you're at the wrong place. Like, it's embarrassing to be able to say that, but you have to live with that. We have to own that. That's who we were. And you can come up with all the excuses, and I know, like, fans are great and all that, but that doesn't change. Like, when they look back in 10 years and look at that, see that's who we were. And so there's a lot of things that have to change. We have to do better. And so I think, number one, you have to take a deep dive into all of it. I think that we have to have a level of, if you thought you were committed, it's got to be even a deeper commitment, of really challenging yourself to do the tough things, right? We have to be able to strain. I think that we have to practice better. I think that there's things that we have to set the tempo, and that starts with me, of the way we practice is the way that we're going to play. And I think that looking back, I could have done a better job of, through all the injuries. Doesn't mean you have to practice longer or anything, but I felt like, because of the injuries and guys standing around, we just the level of competition, even during the week of practice, has to be there to set the tone, because like how you do it through the week is how we're going to see it out on the field, whether it's the physicality and the finishing and the tackling. But our best players have to practice well, and no matter what, if it's injuries or whatever, it's got to be, we have to create a better not atmosphere, but just the competitiveness and the physicality. So there's a lot of things. I don't know if I answered your question correctly, but like we've got to be better in all areas. You know, we play in a league that the national champion is going to be playing in, and 3 out of the 4 Final Four teams. So there's a level of how you have to do things. I've said this all along. Like we could be, you know, if we played in a different league, maybe we're winning 9 or 10 games, and you get stuck in the Missouri Valley and you win 4. And that's just the way that it is, and that's not changing. And our schedule for next year is not changing, and it's challenging. And so that's the way we have to be built. I'm the head coach to make sure that we're built that way.
You brought up the schedule for next year. I know right now as it sits, Coach Hill, 11 games. It's a 12-game season, but right now our schedule still sits at 11. Of course, right now the non-conference schedule, all of your games are on the road, still kind of searching for that extra game. We're kind of at in that process right now is Southern, and where maybe fans can expect a full schedule to be released.
Hopefully soon. You know, that we've got to get that game scheduled. We've got to be able to set those things even for us on planning. But right now, as it sits, we only have 4 home games. So it's you know, we have to get a 5th home game to start the season. If not, then, you know, wouldn't play our first home game till October 5th, because we go at Purdue, at UT Martin, at SEMO, both teams that shared the OVC title and were playoff teams. And then we play a Big Ten school. So, and then we play our league. And so it's going to be another, I think we were 3rd in ranked strength of schedule this year. And so we're looking for that game. We've got to get it scheduled. It's getting tougher and tougher by the day because most teams' schedules are out and finalized, and we don't have that game yet. And so it's a constantly daily conversation.
Coach Hill, appreciate the time. It'll be great to see you guys here at spring football in just a matter of weeks now. But appreciate the time, Coach Hill. Always great catching up with you.
All right, I appreciate it.
That does it for Inside Saluki Athletics this week. It was a jam-packed show from Saluki football, baseball, basketball, women's basketball, and softball. You can catch this show on replay as well on all of our social media outlets. So for all of our guests, I am Luke Martin saying so long, Saluki Nation. Go Dogs.
This has been Inside Saluki Athletics, presented by Pagliai of Carbondale. The preceding has been a Learfield presentation on the Saluki Sports Network.